In this tutorial, I'm going to give you tips on how to pose men. Hi, my name is Ghionis. I'm a wedding, portrait and fashion photographer. I've been shooting for 27 years and teaching for 20. In this tutorial, I'm going to give you tips on how to pose men. We're going to teach you how to go from this to this. By the way, I have this amazing course, the Portrait Quick Start. Click on the link below to download it for free. Enjoy. So you have a guy in front of you and you think, where on earth do I start? Because here's what happens. When most guys are in front of your camera, they don't usually like to be photographed nowhere near as much as girls. Now what he's doing naturally, he's putting his hands over his crotch, which tells me that he's covering up the most sensitive part of his body. Now, body language will suggest that he's feeling uncomfortable. Not that he's feeling uncomfortable, but he's just waiting for a photograph. Also, he's sort of parting his feet. Now, personally, I actually don't like it when feet are parted for a guy especially. See, here's what happens. Curves define the female form. As far as the male form, chest and shoulders define the male form. Now, if you want to emphasize something, you push it towards the camera and towards the light. So in this case, for a guy, the chest and shoulders will be great towards the camera. And also the waist further back. We'll come to that in a moment. And as far as the feet are concerned, we have to understand that posing starts from the feet. Okay, even if we're photographing head and shoulders, we have to actually begin to understand what's happening here because that'll affect what's happening over here. So I often think of posing like architecture, that we've got peaks and valleys. So if curves define the female form, as far as the male form, if he's standing up straight like this, there is just nothing going on. There's no peaks and valleys. We often refer to posing like letters. Here is just an I. There's a line and a dot, nothing. But what I want a V. Okay, we often talk about that strong V particular look and feel. So here's what happens. If we turn his body on a bit of an angle, my suggestion is most of the time, now here we've got the lighting right over here. Most of the time you want to turn the body of the male form towards the light. So posing is not just understanding posing, you have to understand posing according to the light source. So if the light source is over here, this is going to make him look bigger and broader, even if he's wearing black in this case. So now what's going to happen is, even though he's turned his body towards the light, I want to do this. I want to put your feet together like this. Now put all the weight on your back leg and just bend that knee. Perfect. And now put your hands in the pockets. Right, like this, okay? So remember, if you're wearing a jacket with two buttons, you always do it up and you never do it up. So that just gives you a bit of room to breathe. Now, I want you to hang your body and do a glorified slouch. That's it. Just relax too much. There we go. And now, turn your body a little bit towards the camera. So now, as you can see, what we've got is a V. We've got peaks and valleys. Even that slight little bend is bringing this in. If this looks thinner, this looks wider. Now, here's the before and after. By the way, this is Jacob. I call him a Disney prince. And this is a normal 47-year-old Australian Greek-American dude. Okay? So right now, he was like this. The difference between this and this is ridiculous. Of course, I'm handsome in my own way, but he's got the dimples to die for. Is that all we're saying? But anyway, like this is fine. But again, you can't compare it with a shot like this. This makes him look more casual. Think of all the male icons that we actually have seen in the movies, like Marlon Brando hanging on the bike. Think of James Dean sort of hanging on that piece of wood there. I think East of Eden sort of thing. What I'm getting at is guys in many ways more than one like to hang. Okay, I'm not going to go down below, but we like to hang. That's just part of what we do as men, especially with this case, okay? So now, if you've turned your body like this and you're turning your body towards the camera, we are looking a lot better. Now, what I want to do too now is let's just reset, let's unravel for a second, and I want to show you guys the easiest way to pose anyone, let alone in this case, we're talking about posing tips for men, and that is this. Simply get your subjects to mirror you. So if you stand a bit more that way, okay, all right, perfect. So right now, let's say for example, now Jacob, we've only met once before. We have not done a little tutorial beforehand. You don't know what I'm going to do. But if I said simply to you, just mirror exactly what I do, just copy exactly what I do, as if you're looking into a mirror, okay? So what we've done now is we've quickly proven, with a bit of a wink and a smile, that posing and actual posing and getting people to mirror you is the easiest way for someone to understand posing, let alone to communicate it. And if you attach a humorous thought to it, so I just did the good old John Travolta sort of up and down and finger up and down. Now I've sort of stopped demonizing posing. He's more relaxed with it. So when we talk about posing, we often think of it like posing being a dirty word. It is not a dirty word. It is simply bringing out the best in someone. So whether it's a girl or a guy or whoever I'm photographing, I'll establish this. I'll say, as handsome as you are, I can make you shine brighter than ever before with a simple direction. Would you like that?
Absolutely.
That's it. It's important that whoever you're photographing to understand that posing is actually going to bring out the best in them and actually a really important part of the process. So if we stop demonizing it, now we can work together and we can actually make it less taboo and then have some fun. So what do we do with hands? I believe hands are the most expressive thing after the eyes, so we have to use them wisely. Now here's the problem. Here's what a lot of photographers will do to their subjects, and in fact they won't do anything. Just do what you want. Now if you put your hands in your pockets naturally, how would you do it? So maybe just undo that. So you would say this is quite common. Yeah. So here's why this is a problem. Now, in my opinion, these little fingers look like two little penises coming out, actually pointing to the real thing. And this is not a really good thing. So now that I've told you that, you're going to be conscious of it for the rest of the time we shoot. And you don't want that, okay? So this is, now body language would suggest that this is actually quite a relaxed way of photographing a guy. But it's not aesthetically pleasing. This is even worse. We're framing the boys right now. We don't want to frame the boys. We actually want to just put the hands in the pockets, either in or out. Now, especially if you're actually just wearing pants like that, it either has to be in or out. If you're wearing jeans, you can do the good old relaxed fist and all that kind of thing, and that's totally fine. So really, really important, hands in or out, and let's just go back to the jacket being done up. So if you're wearing a jacket, so put the hands right in. Okay, so nice and relaxed, very good, and then we sort of drape that over. And again, this button is undone. Now don't forget, of course, you can actually combine the poses. So let me explain. See, if you overpose a guy, he's going to look a little bit feminine, and that's going to be an issue. So my suggestion is, if you put a hand in the pocket and want to do something else, well, see, give him something to do. What else can he do with his hand? Well, let's just copy what I'm doing. So let's say one hand in the pocket, and you can put one hand holding the jacket. Yep, you can put both hands holding the jacket. You can adjust your watch, because that's what you would do. You would adjust your cuff link. You would just roll up your sleeves. You would also maybe just put your arms and arms crossed. See, if you're working with someone like me, I'm a tall guy, I'm 6'2", but I have very, very small arms, right? So here's what I would do for me. I would get my fists, put them underneath my biceps, and then I would just bring that down. And then it makes the biceps still not look so big. But that's where you can liquefy the crap out of it afterwards in Photoshop on both sides. But yes, that's a good way of doing it. Naturally, if you were to relax, most guys will do this. They'll put one hand in and one hand out. How do you do it naturally without thinking? How do you cross your arms? Okay, so you do it the big way. So he's got small arms as well. He's hiding small arms there. But like this is fine. See, if you do this for a guy, it looks feminine. We don't want that. So one hand out will actually make that look masculine without it looking feminine, or we do this if you want to look a little bit bigger and bulkier. Remember too, we are never going to be straight and flat-footed. We said that's a wrong thing. That's not going to work well for a lot of people. So we said, let's combine these ideas now. So we're going to turn our body towards a light source, in this case an open garage door. We are going to hang the body a little bit more forward. We're going to slightly sort of bend that knee, so shake the feet out. Sometimes we can overdo it. Okay, so bring the feet together. Don't think about it. Okay, bend that front knee, hang the body, and then lean the chest forward. So now we've created that V. Let's go a little bit taller. Basically, depending on the body type and the body shape and the face is how far you go with that particular pose. So for example, let's say we have plus size guy. And again, he was setting up too straight like this. His gut's hanging out. There's double chin showing. We don't like that. Well, in this case, we're going to lean him way forward and then chin forward, almost like a turtle. So if we basically look out that way, for example, now I want you to pretend like your head's like a turtle and do this for me. Whoop. Okay? I am serious. There'll be times where I actually do that and over-dramatize it, but I'll crop the awkwardness out, because right now, if I just do this, it looks stupid. You can tell that I'm doing it. But the minute my face overlaps my neck a little bit, you can't tell what's happening. We call that foreshortening. We're shortening the length of a body part. In this case, the neck looks a little bit weird. So we just relax it a little bit down and it looks awesome. So remember, for a guy, especially wearing a suit, just give him something to do no matter what the occasion. For guys, they like this idea. So put the hands in the pockets, bring the shoulders up, bury your chin underneath the jacket, for example. Chin down a little bit, there you go. And then turn like this. How cool does he look just there? Let's come back here a little bit. So don't forget, if you're actually photographing a plus-size guy, you're actually getting him to emphasize the pose that we did before. So for example, if we turn our body towards a light source like we did before, put our feet together. But by the way, remember, we never want to get what we call pigeon toes. I don't know if we call that in the same thing in America. Do you guys call that the same thing? Yeah, okay. You don't want pigeon toe. That just looks weird. Okay, basically draw an imaginary line between each toe, and we never want the imaginary line to ever cross over. So at the very least, we put them parallel. I personally like 1 foot, just a slight bit of an angle. So for example, I just get people to shake it out, put the feet together, and then slightly bend that front knee. Okay. Of course, with women, you will overemphasize it and do it in a different way, which we'll cover in a different episode. But for now, let's just relax again. Bring the shoulders there, hands in the pockets, just for the sake of the argument, and then turn the shoulders towards the actual camera. And now we are looking at a V. Now, how much you lean forward, or as I say, a glorified slouch, it depends on the person. So for example, if we had a plus-size guy where we didn't have much of a neck, we didn't have a narrowing point, you would need to sort of stretch that face as far as possible. So bring the shoulders back and then bring that chin forward. Now that looks weird from this perspective, but what happens is, depending on your angle, you can shorten the length of that neck by simply going up a little bit higher. No different than, let's say for me, for example, if I point my hand towards the camera here, then all my hand and my arm are actually covered in a circle, but in fact it's actually that long. So with posing and with compression and whenever you're photographing people, you do not want to foreshorten any kind of body part within reason based upon the shot that you're looking for. But that can also help. So deliberate foreshortening can actually really, really help. So let's do it again. So we're doing like this and then chin forward. Now he doesn't need it. He's got a sharp jawline, young dude, no problem. Me, I've got to sort of do that turtle thing a little bit too. If this looks awkward, you've got to bring the camera angle a little bit higher and then make sure, there's sometimes, in fact, I often get my guys to lean forward like this. It might look great 3/4 or close up, but it's going to look really awkward full length. And that's where I simply don't shoot full length in that capacity. So remember, all these posing tips are great, but it really depends on the person that you're actually photographing as to how far you go or not. Now that we've established some posing tips for the male form, let's put into practice and take some shots. So now Jacob's looking very uncomfortable. His hand's over his crotch. He's got a part between his legs. He's just waiting for some direction. Pretty much how most guys will be in front of your camera. So yes, we have to disarm them with charm and fun and humor and all that kind of stuff. But for now, we're specifically talking about the nuances of what will bring out the best in the male form. So we said that we want to turn the body towards the light source. In this case, the garage door is open. So we're going to turn his body towards the garage door. Great. So now we'll put your hands in your pockets just to give you something to do. Guys feel really cool when you've got your hands in the pockets. Remember, we do not want the thumbs coming out. So in fact, let's try a few bad versions of what we're doing. So straighten up this way again, hands over the crotch and just looking over here. Great. What I want you to do now is just simply put your hands in your pockets and with your thumbs, yep, it's like that, perfect. So looking at me, just normal passive face. Great, now do this. Okay. We do not want those shots. Okay, let's look at them again. Hands over the crotch, no. Thumbs out, no. And then thumbs in the pocket and all the four fingers out, no, we don't want that. So now we are going to turn the body towards a light source, make him look bigger and broader. So let's turn your body towards the light source. Stop there. Too much, just come back a little bit. Good. Now, sometimes what happens is when you're asking a guy to turn his body towards a light source, he'll do this and keep his feet planted. So often what I'll do is I'll say to my subjects, pretend like you're on a turntable and I'm rotating you this way. That way, basically your feet, your legs, every part of your body and your person is moving towards a light source. So in this case, he did it right. So now put your hands in your pockets. And if your legs are feeling a little bit stiff, I always ask my subjects to shake their legs out a little bit. Great. Okay, feet close together. And now simply just bend that front knee. Good. Hang the body forward, a glorified slouch. It's a misnomer that posing and that a guy should be perfectly straight like this. We said at the introduction of this video that we get double chins and get a bit of a gut. So if we now have a concave version of our upper bodies, then we're going to get the gut further away from the camera and the chest and the shoulders towards the camera. In this case, you can see very clearly what's happening. Now his feet are there. You can see how there is a valley in his legs, which makes it more of a V, but we're going to actually get him to turn his body more towards the camera. Perfect. And then tilt, face this way and turn. Do me a favor, just bring your elbow out a little bit on this side. Too much, just come back a little bit. Good, a bit more. And then bring this arm out a little bit too. So more back. So just lift up the elbow a little bit. Now, why we're doing that is that I actually want to see a gap between his arms and his body. Not always. In this case, I find that if you were photographing a mere mortal like me, now I wouldn't call myself skinny, I wouldn't call myself sort of ridiculously overweight. I've got normal chubby issues at 47. What I want to do is I want to have gaps between body parts that give me a silhouette. And also, if I bring his arms out, apart from seeing a gap, as we can see here, between his arms and his body, we actually broaden him still. So if we now bring this elbow out a little bit, good, and then turn your face this way, turn, good, and eyes back at me. And now we're looking cool. And if ever you feel that your subjects feel a little bit stiff in the shot because you've posed it a little bit too much per se, I might say to this, Jacob, just let the air out of that shot. Perfect. So now it's looking really good. Turn your face. Perfect. So again, let's look at the difference. So now we've got peaks and valleys. The chest is quite wide. We're going right down to the V of his legs, and he's looking bigger and broader, and it's a bit more refined for photographing a guy. Look at the difference between that shot, for example, and then posing the way we did. It looks nowhere near as good. So watch what happens now that if we turn his body away from the light, as I would suggest the female form, which we'll discuss in a future episode, it actually makes him look a little bit feminine and maybe a little bit too thin and not as big and broad as we'd like to see the masculine form. So now if we just get him to bring his chin to his outer shoulder and then his eyes back at me, you can see how that just looks a little bit feminine. And even if he leans towards the camera, let's do that again. That is a very, very feminine pose. We do not want that. So if you overpose a guy, you can tend to make him look a bit feminine. And if that's your prerogative, that's totally fine. It depends on what you're trying to basically say. So remember, posing starts from the feet. We always want to relax the feet. We usually want to bend the leg that's closest to the camera, and all the weight is on the back leg. We want to hang the body nice and relaxed. Turn the body towards the light source, relax the chin, bring it out a little bit, turn the face so this eye just hits the light, as we can basically see now in this particular photograph. We hang his body, we relax him a little bit. If we want to, we can bring those elbows out a little bit to broaden him a little bit, even this one. Good, too much, come back. Okay, just there. And nice and relaxed, we're not worried about expression too much, just a nice passive look, looking towards that camera. Turn your face towards me. And we have a nice finessed shot, guys. Hope you enjoyed that. We'll see you soon. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you liked the video, and if so, please give me a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell to get notifications for future videos. Please leave a comment so we can connect and I can answer any of your questions. See you in the next episode, and don't forget, you don't have to be the best, you simply have to be better than last week. We'll see you soon.